Let's get the vibe right. Welcome to the show. Bison Spotlight. Chip and B Smooth, bringing heat to your ears. He washing the mix, facing down all fears. From the court to the crowd where the legends are born. Howard University, we're breaking the norm. Bison Nation stands strong through thick and thin. Basketball vibes, it's more than a win. Every dribble, every shot, it's a story to tell. Ray of excellence, we ringing the bell. Chip Washington's the name, self-proclaimed fanatic. In the heart of the game, his passion's emphatic. Come on, let's ride with the Bison crew. Passion and pride in everything we do. Hoops and dreams, we're reaching for the stars. Bison Brothers Podcast is who we are. Come on, let's ride with the Bison crew. Passion and pride in everything we do. Hoops and dreams, we're reaching for the stars. Bison Brothers Podcast is who we are.
Welcome to the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, your number one home for all things Bison basketball. My name is Chip Washington, the self-appointed Bison basketball fanatic.
Yeah, what's up, Bison family? It's your boy Brian Foston, B Smooth. Still the lover of all things Howard and the lover of all things basketball. Looking forward to another great show. What's up, family?
I'm trying to show some restraint, and it will be clear why later. He washed, man. He washed. Trying to show some restraint, baby.
All right.
Well, he did tell us that the medication might kick in during the show. So
Yes.
I'm glad you got it in early. I'm glad you got it in early.
Tangent. That's a perfect tangent. Where we going next?
Well, as E. Washington is letting his system process everything that's going on, and maybe for a big build up towards the end, this is a part two of one of our favorite episodes, like we like to do this time during the season. If you rocked with us last season, you know, as we wrapped up the non-conference schedule, we did a two-part MEAC preview, right? So we take everything we learned in the non-conference schedule. We start with the preseason rankings, and we actually say, let's get a rundown of what we're seeing. We scout the teams. We look at the matchups. We try to predict who we think is going to finish where in the MEAC. And make no mistake about it, this is a Howard University fan-based show. So our lenses will be colored by who we think is going to meet us in the championship, because that's just how we work. But the question becomes, how do we think it's going to play out, right? You know, in our world here, you know, we are going to set up some really cool ways to think about how to look at the games that are coming up in a few short days. But before we do get into our show today, which we'll have some fun. We won't have our normal segments, but we'll have elements of them. So we won't have over and under reactions, but we will have some over and under reactions. We won't have what's good for basketball, but I'm pretty sure E-Wash is going to give us something good. So we're going to see how that goes. We'll see. It's either going to be good for us or good bulletin board material for our teams that we're facing. Either way, it's going to be good for somebody. We're going to see how that goes. But before we jump into the show,
that's another great reference. Is it good?
And have some fun. I see the medicine is kicking in. Chip, I'd like to extend you the point of personal privilege. I think you were going to try to right a wrong here before we jumped into the show today. The floor is yours, sir.
Bison Nation, as I know, thousands of you watched, I believe it was episode 9. And, you know, we did a recap and a kind of our normal show. And I was excited. I was coming off the Chris Paul HBCU Classic where, you know, we were media again. And I got a chance to meet the Grambling State coach. And I was excited that he said that he watched the show. And I said I wanted to make a point to shout him out. And so, as excited as I was, I called the Grambling State coach, Patrick McCrary, and his name is Patrick Crary. So, shout out to Grambling State. Coach, appreciate you watching the show. Just wanted to get that apology and mea culpa out there, because as he watches the show, like all of you should, Patrick Crary, the Grambling State coach, wanted to make sure I got his name right and correct the record. So, thank you for that point.
Love that.
And we didn't appreciate your players dunking on our head.
Hey, Hey, that's true.
That's for another show. That's for another show. I know one of his best players is from Chicago, so I'm pretty sure you have somebody to cheer for. Every team has a person from Chicago on it, and this guy was knocking on everybody. So
Yes.
hopefully,
on that one, though, B.
well, I told you I'm from Gary, Indiana, so we don't let people dunk on us like that. But apparently in Chicago,
Understood. And again, I can't let that detract from my moment. But go ahead.
well, so what we're going to do, because this is one of those times where we're going to stick as much to the script as possible here, because we have a lot to cover here in a short amount of time. We're going to first bring up the preseason ranking. I'm sorry.
Well, do you want me? I want to tell them, give the people why we're doing this. We don't want to shortchange.
You know what? I always rush past that. You're right. Let's get through that.
Yeah.
Let's get through
You
that.
were premature.
Where's the?
I'm just throwing in some tie-ins.
Where's the mute? Where's the mute button?
Medicine.
Get your boy, Chip. Get your boy.
I know. I'll get the intro in now. That way, we can let him
Let's
loose.
get the intro in. Let's get the intro in while he's still in the mix here.
Bison Nation, very, very important. We always want to remind you all to continue to support these championship teams, especially as we're heading into conference play and heading towards the conference tournament. So important that you donate to these teams. And there's so many ways you can do that. You could donate through the team's name, image, and likeness collective. It's called the MEAC Society. You could do that by going to the MEACsociety.org. You can also donate through the Bison Express Booster Club at hubison.com. And you can donate through Fanstake at fanstake.com using the code MECA25. And please continue to go to all of the games. The teams keep telling us that they love seeing Bison Nation in the stands. Y'all been heeding the call, so keep that up. Continue going to the games. And again, humbly, we want to say thank you always for each and every show. Please tell everybody about this podcast. I see you out there doing it, Bison Nation, and you can hear this podcast on so many platforms. You can hear us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, and you can follow us and interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. So humbly, we continue to ask everyone to spread the word about the podcast, support the teams. And man, this is another show that I can't wait to get into. Be smooth.
There's another.
Take it away.
There's another.
Lead us down the path.
I'm trying. This he is doing the best tease here. I don't know whether to be excited about it or hit the mute button and just hope that no one else has to wonder what happens at the end of this episode. So this is our MEAC preview with our men, and we absolutely are about to walk through the 8 teams that will vie for the championship this year. You want to know who runs the MEAC this season? I think we want to say follow the guards, right? Follow the veterans, people who've been here for a little while, and really follow the teams that refuse to give up any ground, because there's a lot of teams that are reloaded. The impacts of the transfer portal and NIL have made its way from the Power Four all the way into the MEAC. And so every team is reloading with a different flair. And so you're going to hear some new names today, and you may even hear a few more that'll be running the league by the end of February, because we've done some crackerjack scouting here on all the teams that we're going to face. Before I jump in and start talking about each team with my co-host here, now we will bring up the order that will cover the teams here. So based on the preseason predicted order of finish, shout out to the MEAC sports team that put this graphic together. We have the reigning champions, Norfolk State University, still in pole position 1. They've actually earned that, so they're going to start there with a lot of the voting. As you can see, our beloved Howard University is at number 2. We definitely have talked to you a lot about them. You'll hear a little bit more of why we think that we may need to change that perspective as we get further into the season here. We'll go into what I consider the next tier of schools, South Carolina State, Morgan State, both very competitive. I think you heard it here first last year how competitive South Carolina State would be from our one and only Chip Washington. And then as we look to the bottom tiers of the conference based on this order of finish, we will cover North Carolina Central, Delaware State, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and then round it out with Coppin State. And so that's going to be the order of the show today. We'll, stick around because we want to make sure you understand who we think might meet in the championship this year. We're looking forward to Howard playing somebody because we're a Howard show, but we're going to talk about what we think may lead that way. And we're going to have some fun with that. So as we get ready to dig in here, Chip, Wash, I want us to start with, and I'm using the word tier liberally, but I do think that the top tier of the conference will start with Norfolk State and Howard. So those will be the first two we'll talk about now. So let's bring up some highlights from Norfolk State, your favorite team, Chip. Behold, the green and gold. Yeah. And you and Coach Jones have a thing going on. And who's your
See, that was okay.
I think the medicine's kicking in. Let's check the time on the medicine.
Yes, yeah. Got a thing going on. That's
boom.
So let's talk a little bit about Norfolk because they're the top program and they have the target on their backs. And we want to make sure that we know that if we want to win the title, we have to go to Norfolk and potentially have to play them. So let's talk about Norfolk and why they are still at the top of the list for going into MEAC play.
Gotcha. Well, coming off for their starters, at least for now, which could change, they got number 2, Jameson, number 11, Ellis, number 7, McComb, number 20, Leaks, and number 23, our old friend from Wagner, Lewis, kind of the starting 5. And then they're coming off the bench kind of liberally with number 21, Morris, number 3, Jenkins. They got a freshman, number 11, Newton. And number 10, Wright Ford, and even number 6, Mello Baines. And I lay all that out because they use pretty much all of those players, in some fashion. But I to me, the ones to be the most concerned about are McComb, Jameson, and Ellis. Jameson, he's for that squad, he's that dude. He put up 30 in a recent game. He's a guard, very, very shifty guard. Again, just like the transfer portal has been through a couple of schools, but you got to keep your eyes on Jameson and that guard play, and even their kind of their front court, with, like I said, Ellis and McCombs, like they're some crafty players. You can't take it for granted. Again, to me, they don't have the same pop as last year's Norfolk Stars, but a solid core, solid crew. Whether or not they're number 1, but can't overlook them. Very, very deep squad, solid squad, but I would say not insurmountable.
Yeah, that's good. You ready to reveal anything about your thoughts around Norfolk State? Perhaps any bulletin board material for the Spartans?
Well, to be honest, the thing that's preeminent on my mind is, I really enjoy doing the show, right? Today is Sunday, and this is your fault, Be Smooth. This is your fault because in the pre-production meeting, I'm bearing down, and I really tried to focus here. We've been having a lot of great things happen just in the sports world in general, right? And what the Bison Brothers show does for me, it just exacerbates that great feeling. I'm saying to you that I'm in the middle of a full-blown sports-gasm. I'm so excited.
And so your thoughts on Norfolk?
Yeah.
I can't even focus on them. I can't. Now, I will say this. We talked about this on the women's show a little bit in that, you can't just dismiss all up and down the conference, right? You can't do that. Right. And certainly Norfolk State has earned that status. I agree with that, right? But again, I keep looking at these records. I keep looking at our record.
Yeah.
I keep looking at, we got what on the women we had 3. This time we got 1, 2, 3. We got 4 people in the top 20 in scoring.
We do.
Yeah, 4 people.
Hmm.
We balling, man. We balling. And so it's not to throw shade at Norfolk State, but I don't even know who these people are that Chip talking about.
Oh, man,
I cannot bring myself.
So
the role
so
reversal.
I think if we are looking for any sponsors for the show, we need a thumbtack. We need a thumbtack sponsor. So they can. We're creating bulletin board material to put on everybody's bulletin board.
I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I know who they are. I get it. Yada yada yada. But we got it going on, man. So
He said yada yada yada.
He
didn't hit me with he didn't hit me with the yada yada yada, right?
Shame.
So here's the deal, because we're going to keep it moving here, because somewhere in there between your sportsgasm and your musings about Howard, Norfolk State is still the returning champion.
Okay.
They still have a strong coach. He's been a coach of the year candidate most of the time that we've known him. He doesn't believe there's a rivalry with anyone else because he's won so many times. So in his head, he's the greatest. And so Coach Jones knows he has to earn it every year, just like everyone else. And to Chip's point, they still have some strength in all the places that made them champions before. They're still very athletic, and they still can get up and down the court. And so even though we want to believe we can match that energy, again, we're going to talk about Howard in a second. I do think that if you're picking the champion right now, you have to start with Norfolk State and potentially Howard, right? But Norfolk State's in the conversation. So whether we want to give them more accolades or not is to be determined. But they're a non-conference schedule, like we said with the ladies. The non-conference schedule is not a predictor of how they're going to play in conference play. If anything, my hope is that they collected a lot of checks because they played a lot of big schools that paid them to come play. And so if they were able to cover their costs for their sports program by taking a few L's early in the season, they're going to be ornery because they hate losing. So I think that any energy they're coming out of non-conference play with is going to result in how they show up for every conference game. So they're the ones with the target on their back. They're the returning champs. That means that everybody's going to play their best game, hopefully against them. But they're a preseason pick for a reason. I do think that.
My question, since you brought that up, based on everything you've seen happen so far, would you say, again, we just talking about preseason now, that they should be the preseason number 1?
So they were the preseason number 1 before we played a game.
Okay.
I'm saying, but if you ask me who should be number 1 going into conference play now, the records would say Howard University because we had a winning record. In the non-conference schedule. But that's just math right there. I don't think we should have bumped them from their preseason ranking because they came in as a defending champ. They came in as the defending champ. So, they have coaching in place because remember, the NIL transfer portal. If you got coaching stability, you have a chance to at least play again. And we're going to talk about Howard in a second here, but Norfolk State and Howard are pretty much, in my mind, they're equal when it comes to coaching stability because they have a coach that's been with their program for a number of years and knows how to win. And they got strong players in the right positions. They got good guard play. They got some big guys that can run, and they're going deep on their bench, which is another thing that is a plus for them is they're not limited to 1 or 2 guys that can get up and down the court, right? And I know, Chip, you got the chance to see them in person. And again, you've mentioned that they don't seem as formidable as maybe they have been in the past, but they still can play. They can still play, right? Right?
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I think they get that right credit. But so we won't lose the momentum here. Why don't we flip to the second team, which is Howard, and let's run some highlights for Howard and talk a little bit about what we see here because we've spent more time talking about them. So we know that we have some good players, as you said. Wash, we got about 3 or 4 players that are leading in scoring, but this team is reloaded, but they still have the core of a champion in terms of the core of a champion. So Chip, why don't you run us through what you're seeing at a high level so we can make sure that people understand why we think Howard is maybe ready to compete for another chip.
So, I think number one, adding Cedric Taylor late in the non-conference season to our starting lineup, it was a major move. I'm gonna keep it real short on our Bison. I think the way that they played against Drexel, which I call the best game that we had so far in the preseason, that's going to be the formula for them to win the MEAC championship. They were super aggressive on defense. Just flew to the ball, at every spot. Matter of fact, the backcourt defense of Cam, Gillis, and OC Okoji, I thought, and will continue to think, is going to be crucial at the point of attack defense with the defense that we play. I think the way that we played against Drexel, like I said, being extremely aggressive, defensively sound, offensively, with the contributions that we had, we're looking, up and down the roster. And I think the question mark will be is, can Donis Kazakavicius play like a 6'10" center? We're going to need, as we continue to go down the teams here, big man play is going to be crucial. And so we're gonna need, if he's going to be the starting center, we're going to need him to play big to do something special. So that's kind of how I see Howard squad. We got the pieces in play. Like I said, the Cedric Taylor addition, massive, huge implications for what we're looking for up and down. Look, I didn't even mention the mid-major All-American nominee, Bryce Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
I got a question, Chip, then, since you've seen them in person. And here, to your point, B, is something where I can say that where we might be behind the 8 ball a little bit. If Norfolk State is a team that gets up and down, the one growth area I think for our big man is he doesn't seem like somebody that runs the floor a lot. But maybe that's something that can change. It seems like he kind of sets up on the block.
Oh my gosh, he's playing that it wants to be back in the championship.
Yeah.
So that would be a legitimate area of concern, but and I'm not familiar with how much size Norfolk State has over us, if even if that's the case. But outside of that, I like I said, man, I'm not trying to diminish anybody else, but dude, I think we ready, man. I think we ready, man.
Well, I will say we absolutely feel like we're ready. We've been watching every game as closely as we can. Chip, recognizing that we're at full strength almost. We still have a few players that have been hurt recently, but I think we're going to have everybody back starting the season here, which means we're carrying a 5-game winning streak so far. And that's one of the things that's notable. Wash, to your point, we have momentum. We've been beating some teams that we've had some pretty good competitive games against recently. We're not too far removed from our back-to-back championship run in the MEAC, and we're better at certain positions. I do think that how we respond to MEAC play is what I'm looking for from Cam Gillis and Cotton and a few other folks that haven't played MEAC ball just yet. They played in other conferences, but it's a different grind. And if they can show up the way they have in the latter part of the non-conference schedule, I think we're going to be, to your point, just fine. I think that if we're thinking about champions so far, these two teams are stacked up to potentially meet, in a rendezvous. But we still have some more teams to cover. So I don't want to lock in on these two because there's a few other teams that we got to get to. Let's move to our next tier down. And I'm saying that very, very derogatory way. So all my Bulldog fans can come at me when you're ready. And Morgan State can, they can do whatever they need to do. They're a little tough. So we'll see how that goes.
Welcome back.
I'm just letting them know. But if the reason I want to make sure we talk about them is, as we learned in the last year or so, if Howard and Norfolk State do not handle business, I think the next tier of teams can run up and become a real threat to who takes over the MEAC. So let's talk about South Carolina State. Let's bring them up next because they were picked third overall to make some moves. And I know that they have some preseason player of the year candidates in their backcourt, plus they have some size at forward. So I know, Chip, you've been watching them pretty closely. And this is something that when you talk about our big man play, this is one of those teams that's going to challenge us down in the post. So Chip.
Yep. So, they're starting five, at least as of, this show is number 5, Tennessee. You got Clark, and then you got Johnson, who's the preseason MEAC player of the year candidate. You got Morrow, got a solid mid-range game, and then you got Hodge. And then coming off the bench, Noah Treadwell kind of has some Marcus Dockery feel, or even if I say currently some Alex Cotton feel. He's a 3-point threat when he crosses the half-court line. So they're an offensive rebounding team. They still apply a lot of defensive pressure. That looks like that's going to be Coach Martin's calling card is, full court press and just really, really strong defensively. It looks like they're still working on an offensive scheme, though. Like, last year's team, the reason why I picked last year's team, because not only the defensive pressure, but they had some offensive guys as well. And I'm not really seeing that so far from Coach Eric Martin's team. So I don't have them third right now. I don't see them as that high of a threat, but that's kind of how I see.
Could it be their 1-13 non-conference schedule that had a record that has you dropping them down in the ratings a little bit?
Could be. But like I said, I'm going with the eye test, like I said, and to let the audience know, kind of part of my evaluation process was as I watched their games, I wanted the players to introduce themselves to me by their play. I noted the starting five, but I said, let me see who introduces themselves to me. And that's how I met Noah Treadwell, because he was shooting the lights out on every game that I saw. But didn't really see a lot of flow. And I think it's, to your point, Be Smooth, that whole transfer portal. Everybody's got so many new guys that it's just hard for everybody to gel. And so, if they gel, could be another thing, but they still have to work that out. So,
you got anything for us on this one?
Not really, to be honest. I'm actually kind of, if I can pull it off, I'm looking forward to trying to take a road trip and see South Carolina State, to get a little bit more of a bird's eye view and on some conference play on the road.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, we you got in a few days we open up with South Carolina State in Orangeburg. So right now that's on my docket to make that road trip. I try to hit the Carolina games when I can. So I have both them and a few teams down here on our list. North Carolina Central will be checking them out as well. But so again, they're struggling right now to find their offensive identity. Chip, to your point, defensively they're going to make some noise. They just play a rough and tumble type of defensive style where it's not just getting into the path of your passes, but they chip and bump you on every play. And if you're looking for fouls, you're going to find yourself whining on the outside of the game because they establish a pretty kind of bully ball kind of a way of working. And once they set the baseline, then they don't get those, you don't get those calls as the game progresses. So they definitely have something to work on here. And they do have talent at first team all MEAC. Jaden Johnson is somebody who still has something to prove that it wasn't a fluke last year for him to get some of the accolades he got. So yeah, I think they're going to be fine. They are next tier down, maybe even a little bit lower than that now that we've seen them play in non-conference schedule. But again, from the preseason perspective, they were picked to be pretty high because of how they finished up last year. Which brings us to our next team, which is Morgan State.
Can I ask one more question, Be Smooth?
Absolutely.
They also had the preseason player of the year, correct?
They did, Jaden Johnson.
Right? And Chip and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, and I never got the answer to, and it's no shade to him, but is Bryce not even eligible to be preseason player of the year because of his class stature, or is he really just not even being considered? Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah, it was my understanding that he was ineligible because of he was picked last year. But yeah, so he was just ineligible to be considered as preseason player of the year.
Okay,
right.
Because to me, be in that same spirit, it's like, okay, if y'all picking Johnson over him, whoever's doing the picking, like, I don't know about that one. I don't know. But again, this is after me now having seen him play in person a couple times, not to mention all the other games. So, Bryce Harris all the way, man. But anyway,
No, Bryce Harris for president. The idea is that the good news is preseason doesn't make the end of the season. I think he's on pace to be considered player of the year, not only for MEAC but also for some other mid-major awards this year. He's on the watch list for things. So it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So him being picked last year as a preseason and not being able to preseason player of the year, not being able to finish the season was a bummer. And one would say that was probably it dealt a bigger blow to our culture than it did to our play, because he's a guy who shows up for work every day. And when he's on the court, he's definitely the next best thing to having a coach on the court and with the energy and making sure everybody's playing at their highest level. So yeah, it's a good question. I just think that if I'm the MEAC commissioner, I want as much diversity in that preseason player of the year pick as much as possible, because I want people to watch the entire league and not just one or two teams. So this was good. Again, the preseason was a pick based on coaches and everybody's assessment. So this was, it's good to know who was picked, because then you have a level of talent you're expecting to rise to the occasion. Still got to play ball though. Still got to get inside the court and play ball. So I love that part.
And so that would make it seem like we're being underestimated too, then potentially.
It could. Well, like I said, we're ranked 2 in the poll, but for preseason, the individual awards, we have 3 people that were lined up to be considered. So we got people on the first, second, and third team all MEAC. So I don't think it's as much shade as we're letting on, although I don't mind shade at this point in the season, because if we can put a chip on our shoulder to play a little bit harder, I'll feed that. I'll feed the beast on that. But right now, we're getting recognized for the talent we've acquired, not only the talent we kept. So Bryce is definitely on the list, but Cedric Taylor got recognized before he played a basketball game. But 8-9 games into the season, almost 10 games into the season, he was still recognized for his talent that he was bringing over from his former school, a little school down in Atlanta, known for big jokers. I had to work that back in. I had to get that back in. Shout out to Morehouse.
And all that means is I'm going to have a wardrobe malfunction at some point.
After your sportsgasm, anything is possible. After your sportsgasm, anything is possible. So what we'll do is we'll turn our attention, because again, South Carolina State is ranked last going into conference play because their record does not indicate that they are a top tier team, which means they could be pretty dangerous. If we overlook them, we could be surprised, especially on road trips. They play pretty tough at home in Orangeburg, and it's a small, hot gym that you go into, so they create an advantage by practicing in a gym that's hot. So we'll see how it goes. If they protect home, they could be right back in the middle of things. But Morgan State's up next. That's a team that showed us the door last year in the tournament, and so we should talk about them a little bit here, because in the grand scheme of things, this is a team that we have to be much more thoughtful about going after here, for sure. So, Chip, talk to us a little bit about what you saw from Morgan.
Hey, this is going to be a preview of my shocker.
Ooh.
Morgan State is this year's South Carolina State.
Get out of here! Are you serious?
Okay,
already, bro.
Y'all doubted me before. Hear what I'm saying? Okay, so they starting out. They got a transfer from Bowie State, who whooped up on us last year. Davis. starting. You got Davis, you got a 7-1 kid named James, a 6'10 kid named Oliver. They got number 22 Wade, and then Perkins. They got the guard play. They got a 3-headed monster at guard play. They got length. They're athletic. I noticed though, even with that length, with the 7-1 kid and the 6'10 kid, there was a game they were playing against Longwood, who Longwood played a whole bunch of MEAC opponents, and I took note that when Morgan was down in that game and they needed to make a run, they made it with Davis, guard, Lawson, Worrell, Wade, and then Meeks. It was a combination of Meeks and it's got a player named Peggs. I made the mental note. I said, after watching this game, Morgan is going to be a formidable obstacle in the MEAC, and we got to keep, I like when teams have that dude, right? You got to watch out for, we got Bryce, we got a couple that, for some potentials, that dudes, but Davis has a chip on the shoulder coming up from Bowie State. So just like we got Cedric from Morehouse, a Division II school, that remember the name Davis, because he's that dude on Morgan's team. And I'm telling you, with the depth that they have, they got another JUCO transfer, Peggs. They got a lot of energy. I'm telling you now, and we'll get to it. Hang around for the end of the show when we talk about our rankings, but look out for Morgan State. That's all I got.
How many returning players they got, Chip?
It's not a lot, because like I said, everybody has the same problem. It's at least 10 new players on each team. Okay. Yeah, everybody. That's not only in the MEAC, it's like across the nation. So it just is what it is. But I've seen at least 2.5 games from Morgan. They're the real deal. So
I love that, man. I love that. Now, I guess for me, not much to add here. I do think that, to your point, they did a pretty good job of reloading from D2 as well as the transfer portal. So, they always play us pretty tough, and they have really excellent guard play. So, that their coach tends to, I think, be a little overconfident facing Howard sometimes, because he just doesn't like us. I don't know why. We're so lovable when it comes to shows like this. But I think that for you to say they're this year's South Carolina State, it puts them on the watch list for me. Their overall record, again, wouldn't let you believe that they're that much of a threat. I do think that, at least for me, one of the people that I am trying to pay attention to on their team is you said Worrell Jr. Alfred Worrell. He's leading them in scoring against pretty tough competition, which means this guy's probably more of a gamer. So kind of have to inflate his scoring average when he starts playing against MEAC opponents. So he'll probably be more of a 17 to 20 points a game kind of scorer if he plays as well as he needs to. So I do see that, this is potentially a split kind of series for us. We'll probably handle business in the Burr, but when we go to Baltimore, there's something about Baltimore air that changes things for us a little bit. So we'll see. I think that's a good team for us to lock in on for sure. Right. Any other questions about them? Because we can definitely move to our next teams if we're ready.
Yeah. No, let's move it along.
Yeah. So next up, I had North Carolina Central. Is that right?
Okay, we could talk about them.
Could talk about they were the preseason, but I can't tell you that I'm excited about where they are right now. They're definitely going to be up there at some point. But shout out to Coach Moden. He's definitely again a strong coaching presence. So that gives them an edge when we have to see so many players turn over from season to season. Having a strong coaching culture makes them formidable most times. So what do we see from our friends in Durham on Fayetteville Street?
So, what I saw with North Carolina Central, they're starting, I believe it's Johnson, Okogro, who I said Aquagro. He's strong down low, Johnson. And they got this dude named Lattimore. Remember that name. Like I said, I like to see everybody's got that dude. Lattimore is, I think he might have came up from either JUCO or Division II as well. But Lattimore is that 3-level scorer. They're aggressive, on defense. If it's a close game, you don't want to have to guard Lattimore. The dude is he's like Vinnie Johnson, but a starter. He's not coming off the bench. Just extremely aggressive, accurate, 3-level scorer. Gotta watch out for him. It's like I said, second tier, but Lattimore is first tier caliber talent. And if it's a close game, do not be surprised that he puts the team on their back to make something happen. So
I love that, man. And again, they're playing a little bit better than some of the teams in the non-conference schedule. The stat that I want to point out that makes them more dangerous than maybe we're letting on, Chip, is that they're currently leading the league in turnover margin. So they're creating more turnovers than anybody else in the league right now, which means, from a defensive standpoint, they can control pace of the game. And to your point, they can keep games really close. That was one of the things that they prided themselves on, is that if they were within 10 points towards the end of the game, they could close the gap. And I think this team is set up to do the same thing. So this is one of those teams we could overlook, and they could just take a game and move up, because you'll think that you have them, and then all of a sudden, end of the game shows up, there's like another team comes out at halftime. You got to check ID. You got to check ID because another team shows up at halftime. That's good stuff. Anything else for Central?
That's all I got on them right now.
I think that, again, just from looking at the standings, something that might kind of embellish your point is that even though their overall record isn't great, they're 4-2 at home. So that does speak to a level of probably tenacity and grit or something, given everything else that's going on. So certainly something to keep an eye on.
I was just gonna say, I as a preview for all of the teams, that's definitely one trait that I saw in the MEAC. So to your point, Be Smooth, in terms of MEAC play, I didn't see, even when against the power schools that they were playing, no quit in any of the teams. It's going to be a dogfight in the MEAC, because every team has a level of grit that I was frankly kind of shocked to see. So
you and me both, man. I think that's what makes our conference so tough to predict when it comes to once we get into conference play, because I won't say throw the records out the window, but don't hold yourself hostage to what you saw for the first 15 games or so, because hopefully most teams are catching their stride. Most teams are catching their stride going into conference play. And again, you're pretty much going to see the same teams in a round robin, one time at home, one time on the road. And so depending on how your schedule's set up, we may see a bunch of movement in the first part of January, and then it'll shift around by the time we get to the end of February. So I'm excited to see the matchups. And again, when you travel to Central, you enjoy people young and old singing "Whoop That Trick" when they think they're going to win the game. And I'm just saying, until you see somebody that's much older than you singing that alongside a little kid, it's another whole scene. It's another whole scene.
The visual,
bro. I'm just letting you know. Chip, you say you don't want to see him be close. You don't want to see him be close not because of what's on the court, but their whole stadium at the top of their lungs are yelling, "Whoop that trick, whoop that trick." And if you make it down to Fayetteville State and Fayetteville Street rather in Durham, North Carolina, and you can get a ticket to go in there, you'll enjoy the atmosphere, because it's one of the better gymnasiums that's set up for like an intimate setting. And I promise you, they get into it down there. So I'll be heading up there. It's on Martin Luther King weekend, and I'll be in town just for that moment. I want us to keep them very quiet. Like, I'm hoping to not hear that, but if I hear it, I know the game's close. Like
I said, remember that Lattimore dude. Look out for him when you.
Yes, I'm looking for Lattimore. I'm looking for Ponce James as well. And I'm sorry, this not Ponce. It's my next guy. I'm looking for these guys to show up in a big way, because they're definitely the guys that are going to show up in a big way for us. Yeah.
I think there's one more thing I would add to what both of you guys are saying, and that it kind of speaks to something that Chip brings up consistently, that I think embellishes your point, Be Smooth, and it's that you can't really judge our conference. You can't judge a book by its cover in terms of the talent that's moving in and out, for that matter. And I think, right before we recorded, I took a look at a former player, Destiny Howell's production. And I thought to myself, wow, she's in the Big Ten. She's leading Wisconsin in scoring. And it seemed like kind of a seamless transition. And who's to say, even though this is the men's show, who's to say, who the equivalent of that would be that we haven't seen yet on any of these rosters, to your point. So, and I think that also speaks to our mission, if you will, in terms of highlighting things that we have seen for years, but that other people are only coming to know. And that there's a lot of talent all over the place. So, yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, bro. The talent level has never been the question. I think the packaging is what we're working on right now, where it's not surprising to see someone who moves to a different conference. Shout out to, was it Blake Harper, one of your exes, Chip, that he's
Right.
balling at a power 5 school, power 4 school that is, he's coming into his own. And so we're seeing that from other MEAC players. If you listen closely, they'll tell you where they came from. There's several players that played for Norfolk and some other places that are now playing in bigger division schools and playing well. And so,
right.
it's more opportunity than anything else, and access to some of the resources, which we know is always kind of that's the slant, right? That's the slant, to your point.
Who was the Texas Tech kid, Chip? That
Elijah Hawkins.
Yeah, man. He was part of a big NCAA run for Texas Tech.
Final Four.
Hey, they were a bucket or two away from getting to the Final Four, and they should have been there. So,
yeah. Chip stayed up late to watch this guy play. He's it's one of his exes. He'll talk about until the show's over here. But we definitely got the talent to play at any level. And just check that if you're trying to figure out why should I follow HBCU basketball. It's because based on the movement of players now with the transfer portals and whatnot, chances are you'll see somebody who got their opportunity to play early at a HBCU. A lot of schools they're not recruiting freshmen like they used to. So if you want to play early, you got a better shot of going to HBCU, playing for a year or two, and then making a move potentially if you have that level of talent. Not excited about that particular path, but we should see better talented young people coming our way because they want to play. No one wants to sit on the bench and hope to play.
That's right.
That's good. But like I said, we're rolling along here, and this preview show is one that hopefully when we talk about some of these players, you'll look out for them just like you're looking out for Howard University basketball. We are Bison Brothers basketball. We are a pro Howard fan show, but today's episode, we're trying to be fair and balanced to a certain extent about who we think is going to make some noise in the MEAC as we get into conference play. So we're kind of right at that halfway point where we're going to flip over here and see if we can cover a few more teams here and then make a prediction on who we think we may meet in the final standings here. So let's talk about Delaware State. Let's make a road trip up to Delaware. That's the northern end of the MEAC conference. This is a team that is sneaky good. They're a team that they've had a couple of really good players come through there, just like we have. And I know, Chip, I'm gonna let you dive into it, but I mentioned him already. Ponce James is the guy I'm looking out for here. He's probably the most complete guard that we have playing in the league right now, my estimation. But tell me what you're seeing from them, because they're definitely a team based on traditional college blueprints. By having such strong guard play, they're going to always be formidable with strong guards.
It's kind of like you said, so, you know, they're coming out with Ponce James. They got number 3 Webb, number 2 Perkins. They got number 42 Sarabda. No, I'm saying his name wrong. And then to me a surprise. Well, I wouldn't say a surprise, but a newcomer to their squad, 37 Santos, big kid. And then, you know, off the bench they got Bethea, a 3-point threat. This is a team early on when they played Temple. Matter of fact, that's some of the highlights that I have playing now. And they actually they came on my radar because they played Temple very tough. And number 37, you know, I don't know if I had a pro kind of analysis or comparison, I'd say, you know, it's KD like he's a real tall guy, but you know, he's got handle. That's him right there, you know, shoot. You gotta watch him. So I you know, I don't know where I have Delaware State. I mean, it's in the middle, but I think to your point, like if they put it together, they could be formidable as well. I got my eyes on them. They, like I said, you know, strong guard play, and like I said, number 37. I don't know if Ponce is that dude or if Santos is going to be that. Maybe it might be a combination of both, but definitely Santos could turn out to be that dude. And so, and with his size and length, that's going to be a problem in the MEAC. So just keep those 2 names in mind. And like I said, Bethea as an outside Vinnie Johnson kind of microwave shooting threat. That's at least, you know, they got 6 players that you got to keep your eye on. So yeah, I keep them mid, but they're high mid tier.
I think you're right on it. Their first, you know, as they go into conference play, they're ranked 3rd in the league right now. So they've proven that, to your point, they have the talent to move up quickly. I think that not knowing how they would gel in preseason is the only reason they were ranked a little bit lower. But based on the proof in the pudding, they have the makings of a team that can cause a lot of challenges to anybody who's trying to guard them. So to your point, they have talent that's been recognized in the preseason, first and second team, all MEAC on top of them, just, you know, playing like the dogs they are. So yeah, when they get into it, as you said, they don't have a quit to them. So I think every game they play is going to come down to the wire. I don't see anybody outrunning this team or outplaying this team, given where they have the skill. They have the skill at that guard play for sure.
Like they had a backup guard, this dude named Shell, and he came off the bench. But just like, you know, anything, you know, it's not, like I said, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But when they had to close their closing lineup, they had Shell in their closing lineup, even though he came off the bench, you know, as not being a starter. So they could be formidable with their guard play for sure. And the Santos, that you just see that outside shot that he got right there, like he's gonna be a problem.
Oh yeah,
that dude right there, problem.
They play like they want to be in it. So they've already moved their position to start off. So they're, you know, when we talk about who may meet us, you know, who may meet as we get to tournament time, Delaware State has to be on the list. They have to be on the list if they can hold it together and stay healthy like everyone else. They have the makings to make it there. So let's see if we can catch these last couple of teams here, so we can dream a little bit here. So I know next up on the list for us was Maryland Eastern Shore, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and you know they definitely have a new coach, Cleo Hill Jr. His second year. He's been doing what everybody else is doing, trying to reshape the entire roster, and so he's still trying to pull that together. He does have a Christopher Flippin, who's a stretch front line player. I like that name, Stretch. So he's one that can shoot from the outside and take it inside. So he's starting with some strength down low. So what did you see from Maryland Eastern Shore as they get ready for conference play?
So here's the first note I had on them. I said, no way this team finished 7th in the MEAC. I don't know. No. I don't know what all the coaches were thinking, but no way this team finished 7th. They you know, they're starting with, I think it's Teal. He's got a decent finishing bag around the rim. You got Staples, you got Beckwith, you got Locandro, who's you know, kind of a Nikola Jokic type of guy. That's him taking the shot right there. You know, he's a stretch big, but he plays down low as well. That's why I say to Nikola Jokic. And then you got Cooper, He's got a decent mid-range game, and then off the bench they got this guy Mondin, 3-point threat. Trey Brown, and then they got this other big Obanla. And so when I think about us, in terms of UMES, University of Maryland East Shore has some size that can play. So again, Donis, he's gonna have a real introduction in MEAC play, because a lot of these teams got some 6'9" and up guys that are gonna go at him, and so University of Maryland Eastern Shore has quite a few. So you could take all my money if they finish 7th in the MEAC. I don't see them being 7th in the MEAC when it's all said and done.
Well, they've pushed themselves up to the middle of the pack. So to your point, I think they're probably that third tier kind of team where if they play like they're supposed to, they can make noise. They got the size and the skill at every position. So when they match up against teams that are more evenly matched, I would love to see if they can carry that same level of intensity. So being able to score inside, outside, you can't overlook them on the schedule. Can't overlook them on the schedule. So they do have some, player high caliber players that started the season. But to your point, Lacandro and others didn't get recognized, but they're probably going to carry that team with a chip on their shoulders. So this is good. Yeah. This is really good. So it's funny because they were 7th in preseason. There's no way they're going to be 7th at the end of the year here, based on just how the season has progressed so far. But fun part now is that we get to talk about the last team that we have to cover tonight, which is Coppin State Eagles. Shout out to Baltimore. And they're still rebuilding, which is kind of the name of the game here. And they do have a core that can shoot from deep, as well as a pure scorer in forward, Collie Horton. I think it's Collie Horton is his name. And so we do have some folks. They have building blocks. It's just how the rest of the pieces are going to come together. So they're currently sitting, at the bottom of, close to the bottom of the standings, even going into conference play. They only had 2 wins in the non-conference schedule here. So again, that's not a predictor of how they will do in conference play. But talk to me about what you're seeing about this supposedly 8th place team.
Right. So right now, I think the reason they are where they are is because it's just like we had, maybe it was 2 years ago. They're a turnover machine. So, they play good ball, but it's hard to win when you have high double-digit turnovers every game. But I give you one trait. So they played Radford, and they were down 15 late in the first half. But they came back to tie it up by that. So I'm saying like the 9-minute mark of the first half, they were down 15. But they had enough grit, I think Coach Larry Stewart, I believe, former NBA player, kind of running the helm there. Yeah. But for their turnovers, the grit that they showed to come back in that game, kind of it put me on the radar. Like, oh, okay, they get these turnovers together. They got enough kind of grit and scoring. I think from an outside shooting threat, like number 7, he's kind of one of their consistent outside shooting threats. But again, can't overlook them. Gritty team, won't quit. They just they have to fix their turnovers, and so so if they fix that, they're moving up from the bottom of the MEAC. But if they continue that, just like turnovers doomed us that one year, it could doom Coppin State's season as well. So
I love that, man. Well, what you mentioned here, and the common theme that I'm pulling from your expert analysis, again, great job on the graphics here too. The folks that are watching on YouTube or are watching on Spotify, when you check out this episode, shout out your boy Chip Washington for the editing skills here. We felt like we were at the games with all the highlights, man. Appreciate you putting this together. The key thing that's coming back for me is that everybody has just enough pieces on their roster where nobody wants to see them in February. Like there's no team you mentioned that said, other than maybe Coppin State with the turnovers, where based on the pieces they have, I think everybody has a shot to make some noise between now and the end of February, which is kind of cool to see as our league continues to be a competitive one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we got through all 8 teams. Great job. I did want to make sure we honored the fact that if you hung out with us to the end of the show here, we want to talk a little bit about who we think we may see at the end of the season in the championship, right? So let's talk about it a little bit, right?
All right. Now you'll appreciate this, and I'm sure KB is going to hate me for saying this.
Yeah.
But with the depth that I've seen some of these other teams, at least the top tier teams use, if we are still using a tight 6 or 7 man rotation with 30 minutes per player at the top deal, I could see a team like Morgan State knocking us off. I think we're going to have to use our depth. These teams, they have too much in the tank for us to go in with a short rotation. Now, again, come tourney time, one game, we got the horses to, if we got to play, 6 players, 38 minutes, we can do it and we can win the game. But for the course of the grind of the MEAC season, if we don't use our depth, I don't see us going in as the number 1 seed, because there's too much talent and too much depth on some of these other teams, like Delaware State, Morgan State, even Norfolk. They got a lot of depth, and that can be a challenge. Now, again, if we utilize all our depth, if we go 9 players strong at least, I see us as the number 1 seed. But if it's 7, that's a problem on so many levels, So
not on so many levels.
So many levels, because it's like, why, because clearly the coaches know, way more than us. But if he can only count on 7 players, I think that's an issue. And if we only have 7 players, that's going to be an issue, coming to grind. But like I said, I think if we got all of our horses going, and again, I'll use that, even though the Drexel game, he had a short rotation, but those guys played well. Like I said, I just find that's going to be so hard for the entire season to ride 6 or 7 players with such a grind. But if we utilize the depth, I see number 1 seed, no issue. But and I'll say if Morgan State ends up the number 2, which I could see that happening, because I'll tell you, that kid Davis, man, he got a chip on his shoulder. He's coming from Bowie State, Division II, but you could just see he's like trying to show y'all, okay, sleep on me if you want to.
Right.
So I'm gonna say Howard, Morgan State in the championship. But it's not easy, because Delaware State is going to enter the chat. Norfolk is going to enter the chat. Like it's so hard 1 through 4 or even 5 to say how it's going to turn out. But I got to put my stake down so that a year from now, when I look back at this and see that I'm right, just like I was about South Carolina, South Carolina State.
That's
when I got to tell y'all, and I'm telling you, Morgan State is the new South Carolina State number 2 seed. Howard Morgan State championship game.
Wow. Well, the good news is, Chip, we give partial credit for this show. So I'm glad that you have set up the table here the way you have. Where I'll tell you that you got it right is that the top maybe 5 or 6 teams in the league have made it so tough to distinguish between 1 to 6 that these next few months are really going to dictate definitely a different order of finishing than what was predicted at the beginning of the season. I do think that, based on who responds to the MEAC play the quickest and who plays to all their strengths the quickest, they are the ones who are going to make the most noise when it comes time for tournament play. I have a hard time betting against Norfolk State. I don't like them very much, and that's okay. They don't need to like me. I don't need to like them, but they have proven that in this league, they have a formula that gets them back within reach of the championship each year. Now, granted, they do not necessarily have the folks that can close the games like they've had in the past. So while they can make noise, and I still consider them to be a top tier team, instead of it being just Howard and Norfolk State, I do think you put the top 5 or 6 into the top tier. It wouldn't surprise me if any of those teams made to the end of the tournament, because in a 3 or 4 day tournament, whoever's on is on. But what we're going to learn is that who can play in the MEAC. And right now, with all the transfers from every school, it's going to feel like a new season when we get into it. So I won't. I'm gonna play the straight line on this one.
All right.
I don't think it. I mean, right now, Howard's going in number 1 because they have the winning record coming out of their non-conference schedule. I think that momentum propels us to play, especially if we can play with healthy bodies. I still think we come in as the 1 seed, given what we learned playing all the different types of teams we played in the non-conference schedule, because we know we can play with everybody. We just got to start off faster and move. And to your point, we got to play all our horses. We can't just keep running the same guys into the ground because they won't last. Just physically, it won't work for us. But I do think that Delaware State is probably going to sneak up there at number 2. And the reason I have them down there is because even though things are changing, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Those who have really great guard play are going to always be in it. And I think they're going to shine, and their guards are the best guards in the conference right now until proven otherwise. So if they continue to play at the level they're playing and they go ahead and do their thing, I would not be surprised them being a number 2 seed going into the conference schedule, because the games are going to be won at the line, and it's going to be one who can win the last 4 minutes of every game. So that's what I'm singing right now. I don't know how right I'll be. I just know Howard has the talent to get there. We have the people to get there, but we have the momentum coming into the conference play. But just like that, if we don't handle our business and take care of the teams that we can beat and beat them handily, then we may look at ourselves scratching our heads saying, let's just get in and see how far we can go. Right.
Yeah. Now I can't argue with that, because like I said, 1 through 6 could definitely fluctuate. If I had, I'm gonna go 1 Howard, 2 Morgan State, 3 Norfolk, 4 Delaware State, 5 Maryland Eastern Shore, 6 South Carolina State.
Wow,
I'm missing somebody. 7
Central.
You know what? 6 Central.
There you go.
And then
How about that?
7 South Carolina State, 8 Coppin.
I love it.
That's what I got from what I see right now.
Yeah, and like I said, and it's only because Coppin has the turnover, so if they figure out the turnover game, they can move up really quickly as it works here. But the big thing is the league's worth watching.
Like TLC said, no scrubs.
No scrubs.
No scrubs in the MEAC.
Yeah, no, it's amazing because we all seem to be doing well against other teams outside of the league. So it's our turn to get beat up on a little bit because it's supposed to be tough in conference play. And so I'm looking forward to a competitive conference schedule, because if there were 1 or 2 teams clearly better than everyone else, then that'd be different. And maybe that changes after the first month of January. But I'm excited to come into the season knowing that anybody can make noise, which means you got to pay attention to every game in the MEAC. You got to pay attention to every game. So I will tell you this, man. The MEAC will continue to run on guard play, even though we got some really talented big people. In toughness, and to your point, depth. Whoever can figure out how to play and keep the ball safe, play tough, because that's what we do here, and use their depth appropriately, that's who's going to run the league. As we talked about it before, the top 6 can make noise, but right now I believe both Norfolk and Howard want to control the lead, because if they can play to their style, that's what people have to get used to. I think we both those teams, Howard and Norfolk, can dictate a pace that's going to be hard to sustain for a lot of the schools. But I can tell you that every other school you mentioned, Morgan, Delaware, Central, they just want to disrupt everything. So, the cool part is that they can't be held hostage to the previous teams that came through because they're totally different. There's no team that looks exactly the same as it did last year, which makes it kind of exciting, right? Yeah. This is good, man. So, Scott, this is a good one, man. We got through it, man, because we want to make sure everybody knows. So, Bison Nation, as Chip likes to ask, let us know what you think, because we let you know what we're thinking. Put it in the comments. Make sure you let us know if we got it right. Let us know if we got it wrong. You keep it to yourself. No, I'm joking. You can definitely let us know what you see.
All you other MEAC schools, if you're watching, let us know what you think. Morgan State, if you Delaware State, if you think we slighted you, let us know. Hey,
that's right.
It's the MEAC preview show.
It's the MEAC preview show. And what we're going to do, Chip, like we've done before, we're going to tag every team. So every team will have a chance to respond. You'll have 30 days to respond. No, I'm joking. But let us know, because we want to see the MEAC be competitive. As you know, we are a Howard show. We are a fan-based show, but we are fans of Howard University as well as HBCU and MEAC basketball. So we want to see not only the talent that we have, but we want to see how well we compete against one another, because people need to know, there's a reason why we want you to have butts in seats or cheeks in seats, to make sure that you can check all the action out. So let us know. And again, if you see us on the road, we'll be catching some of the games in flow. Stop by and check us out. Bison Brothers Basketball. We'll be in the media row, because we're media now. Media. So Chip, anything else before we wrap up the show today?
Ready to wrap it up.
Okay. Well, before I let you get us out of here the way you always do, just remember, continue to follow the show. We appreciate everybody who's been rocking with us. Conference part of the season starts in a few days after the airing of this particular episode. So make sure that you're making your plans to see the team play. There's still going to be opportunities to check out some of our episodes, and we're going to drop a few more things during the holiday season, so you can kind of keep up with us and see what else we're doing. But we love being able to bring this type of information to you and telling the stories that need to be told. So Chip, let's wrap up the way we normally do.
Do you want to give them a tease in terms of what episodes might be coming out in the next during this holiday season?
I can. During the holiday season, we have I guess we're starting to call it more of the Coach's Corner. So we dropped an episode of the first part of our interviews with Ty Grace, and she's blessed us with so much content. We're going to drop at least one or two more of her parts, so you can watch that in its entirety. The series will be out there for you to check out. And we're also going to drop our interviews with Coach Kenny Blakeney, because we actually got with both of them before the season started. So to catch them, especially as we get into conference play, you get to hear what they were thinking even just a few short months ago, is going to help keep the story connected for you. So those two are definitely going to drop. And then early, as we get into MEAC play, we have one more coach that gave us some time, Coach Brian Davis. We're going to drop some of his episodes, and some of our upcoming recaps. We'll be dropping pieces of that in the show, so you'll catch some of those as we go. So we're going to try to add little highlights during the show, so you can catch a little tease during each show. But definitely want you to check that out, because again, we're not just bringing you recaps, we're bringing you stories, especially from the coaches who are letting you know what they're doing to create a championship culture at Howard. So thanks, Chip. I definitely want to let people know there's more to watch than just the highlights.
Indeed. So hey, Bison Nation, as always, man, you just heard the MEAC preview for the men. Continue to support these championship teams. Oh, so many ways you can do it. You could donate through the Name, Image, and Likeness Collective at the MECA Society. You can do that by going to the mecasociety.org. You can also donate through the Bison Express Booster Club at hubison.com and at Fanstake through fanstake.com, and use the code MECA25. Heading into conference play, go to these venues: South Carolina State, North Carolina Central. Butts in seats, cheeks in seats. The teams are really going to need you during conference play. And as always, please continue. We got at least 1,400 of y'all on the YouTube site. 4,000 plus on Instagram. Continue to tell everybody about the #1 show for all things Howard basketball. That's the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast. You can hear us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, and you can follow and interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. So continue to do all those things. We're going to end this show like we end all of our shows in that true Bison spirit. And that's HU.
You know.
Thank you.